Hey, welcome back to the Big Ranch Show. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to In the News. This week, I have a few little stories to talk about. The week kind of started kind of surprisingly at the Olympics with Simone Biles pulling out, and people all over the internet lost their minds, it seemed like, saying all sorts of terrible things about her pulling out of the team the all arounds and potentially all the individual events as well. And it was all for her mental health. It was recently announced that she will be not doing the uneven bars as well as the vault. I guess two of her better things, especially the vault she's usually really good at. But people were attacking her for taking time for her mental health, not realizing that the problem she was having, as we found out later in the week, could have caused her to do things that would actually injure herself or even hinder the team. She was having a situation where apparently it's something that happens in gymnasts sometimes, where they have a situation where their mind isn't in the right space and they do the wrong things on the event. I was watching something the other day saying that there's a situation where they can over rotate, or they overdo things, or they underdo things because of this problem, and they can end up hurting themselves. Yet people continue to hate. People are like, oh, this didn't used to happen. I'm like, well, you know what? People didn't used to pay attention to their mental health either. There was a point in American gymnastics especially where you didn't get a chance to feel down. You didn't get a chance to be hurt. If you were hurt, you had to keep going. If you're mentally broken at that moment, you had to keep going. Yeah, we did a lot of winning. A lot of winning. But I have to say, for Simone Biles to pull out of the Olympics when she is a favorite to win gold in certain, especially some of the individual events, it took a lot of courage to do that, to go through all that. But you could tell the first day they performed there in the gymnasium there, she was having a hard time breathing. It looked like she was she was looking like she was really in a rough spot. And for safety of her and for the betterment of her team, she pulled out. And nobody should hate on her for that. It just is what it is. Sometimes you gotta take time for yourself. In other news, it was announced on Monday of this week that the CDC is now suggesting that you go back to wearing masks even if vaccinated inside public places. The reason for this is because the new Delta variant is apparently easier to catch than chickenpox and spreads so much worse. And it actually has worse symptoms for people. Now, I don't know what we're headed to. I don't know if we're headed to another lockdown, but this isn't looking good, folks. All because people won't get vaccinated. Here we have this particular variant going everywhere. Now, the problem is the CDC is also saying, though, that vaccinated people can spread this variant because the vaccines don't have the same effect on this as they did the original strains of COVID. Unfortunately, it just is what it is. People are getting sick. And most of the people that are getting sick are unvaccinated. Almost 100% of those who have died from the new Delta variant have been unvaccinated. As it is now, they're saying that with a vaccine, you may suffer symptoms as bad as, feel like you have the flu. Like a real bad flu or a real bad cold. All those claims they were making that COVID was to begin with. Yeah, you can get, if you're going to end up being symptomatic, being vaccinated will keep you out of the hospital for the most part and will keep you alive. It's trying to get people vaccinated, and as well, Joe Biden has suggested that states offer $100 to every person that needs to get vaccinated. I'd like to know where my $100 is. I got vaccinated very quickly. I wasn't rewarded, but you know what? If it'll get people to to get to the vaccine, then do it. It doesn't make any sense why this is going on. This shouldn't be political. I don't understand why somebody would be so scared of a needle that they can't get a vaccine. I hate needles, but I get my vaccines. And really what it comes down to is these people are chicken. They want to sit there and act like, oh, they're not scared, but they're clearly scared to get stabbed with a needle. Apparently, they're okay with potentially having to deal with a mass shooter because we don't do anything about guns in this country. They're okay with other things, like people starving, children being attacked by governments. But they're scared of a vaccine. A vaccine that is proven effective in keeping people out of the hospital. In most cases. It's really a pathetic state of affairs. In this country, we have people that are literally going to keep us in lockdown again. They're going to put us back in lockdown. We're going to be stuck there for another half year or more. And this time, the government's not going to help. This time, the government's not going to be sending you $3,000. They're not going to be giving you extended unemployment. In fact, if you're from Texas, you've lost your unemployment for COVID. So, we're either going to have to stop the progression of this virus, or we're going to go back into lockdown. And this time we ain't going to have money for food to cover the rent. Because you think the Republicans in Congress are actually going to help? No. They don't care about you. They don't care about you or me or anybody else except their pocketbooks and their donors. And unfortunately, we're not their donors. Because even if you're somebody that gives the Republican Party a few dollars here and there, no, you're not the donors they're looking for. Sorry. Because when I talk about their donors, I'm talking about their corporate sponsors. The ones that they should have to put on their the lapel of their jackets. Kind of like a NASCAR driver. Where they're covered up, their entire uniform is covered up with all these different sponsors. Well, I think that's what they need in Congress, huh? But we know that they're not going to help. The Democrats aren't going to get rid of the filibuster, so there's no way that anything will pass Congress. You're not going to see anybody helping. At least that's what it looks like. I mean, we can't even get anything past something as simple as the Equality Act that makes sure people, the LGBTQ community, aren't treated any differently legally in this country. We don't have that yet. We can't pass anti-voter suppression rules. So states continue ripping rights away from people. At the end of the day, it's not cool. It's not good at all, the situation we're finding ourselves in. And the people to blame are those that are unvaccinated. Because this virus would not be able to spread as easily if everybody was vaccinated. And I know you're probably sick and tired of hearing me say over and over again, get vaccinated. But unfortunately, it's not working, is it? No one's listening to me. I'm averaging 20 views a video, if that. So clearly, most people aren't seeing this message, and they're not listening to anybody else. Don't take it from me. Take it from scientists. Don't take it from me. Take it to those people that have lost loved ones because they decided to wait to get the vaccine. Heard a story the other day over on TYT that was just heartbreaking about a husband and wife who had been, hemming and hawing about whether or not they were going to get the vaccine. They didn't know whether or not to get it. They were conservatives. And they were not sure of if the vaccine was safe. Or if they should get it, if they even needed it. And then the woman and her husband both contracted COVID. And now she lives in regret because her husband's dead. And the Delta variant doesn't carry your age. You can be young, you can be old, you can be sickly, you can be perfectly healthy. And the Delta variant will take you out. So it would be helpful if some of you would maybe get vaccinated. I mean, am I wrong? Is getting vaccinated really that difficult? Speaking of COVID, apparently the Baton Rouge Children's Hospital is near capacity with COVID patients. And so it's not looking good at all. And I don't understand why it's taking this long for people to understand. I don't understand why it's taking so long for people to get vaccinated. You've got children's hospitals getting overrun with it. You also have RSV, I think they call it, another virus that affects young children. It's raging, and they don't have room to take care of COVID patients and this uptick in RSV patients. This is not a joke. And one last bit of news, infrastructure. This week, Arizona Congresswoman Seema apparently struck a bipartisan deal with some Republicans that basically, in a way, shreds the infrastructure deal that Joe Biden wanted. But she came to this agreement. Apparently, Democrats are very mad and have attacked her on these grounds. And the reason that she did this is because she's not a Democrat. The reason she is working with the Republicans is because she is not a Democrat. Just like Joe Manchin is not a Democrat. These two are Republicans with little d's by their name. This is a deal that needs to pass as close to what they wanted as possible. Because not only do we need to get back to putting our roads and bridges back together, we need to work on infrastructure for other things like internet, solar power, green energy. Millions of jobs available if we just open it up. And here are people like Joe Manchin and Seema wanting to get rid of it, wanting to just not even do any of it, because an investment in our future is not good enough. Apparently, being in the middle of the green energy tech boom that is going on right now is not something that these conservative so-called Democrats and Republicans want to do. They want to let China take the lead. In fact, they have already let China take the lead. They produce more green energy than anywhere else on the planet. And I don't just mean the production of energy. I'm talking about the components and the parts that make the green energy. The conductors, the solar panels, the windmills. Those things that Donald Trump think cause cancer. Right here in Norman, Oklahoma, they just shut down a road because they're scared a bridge that is on it is going to collapse. Do you want to be driving around on bridges that might just collapse because we didn't take care of them? These are things that didn't used to be political. Getting roads and bridges fixed didn't used to be political. It used to just get done because it has to be done. We learned almost a decade ago with that bridge collapse. What was it, in Minneapolis, that killed all those people? Yet we're not doing anything now, knowing that our bridges and roads are crumbling. We're starting to look like a third world country in some places. And it's pathetic. It doesn't make any sense. There's absolutely no reason for this to be happening. Now, I hope whatever deal they do come up with at least fixes the roads and bridges. Even though we need to push into the green energy market. Because if green energy was getting the subsidies that the oil industry is getting, guess what? We have green energy a boom overnight. But why don't they want it? That's right, because most people in Congress are bought by the big oil companies. That's a fact. Democrats, Republicans, they're all bought by the same people. And you think that money doesn't sway their opinion? Yeah, you may vote for them because they lean one direction or the other. But they're only swayed by money. At least the majority of them. It's absolutely disgusting. Because to be honest with you, much as Obama said, I believe in an all the above approach when it comes to energy. We need green energy. We need fossil fuel energy until the green energy can do its job. But to have energy independence, we need to use all of it. The point to do green energy is to help lower our reliance on fossil fuel, therefore lowers our reliance on OPEC, and we can quit giving terrorist states like Saudi Arabia money. But we keep doing it. We keep supporting them. Why? Because we need their oil. So at the end of the day, the infrastructure deal needs to get done. It needs to get done in full. But if these conservative Democrats are going to keep getting their way, we're not going to get anything done. Because all they're doing is the bidding of the Republican Party. The Republicans that they know come and talk to them and say, hey, we need you to hold this up and hold this up. And they're like, okay, what do I get out of it? We'll help you get reelected. We'll pay your fees. You'll pay your dues. We'll pay whatever you need to have paid. That's how they work. Like Joe Manchin. If the Republicans even offer him any help towards anything, he will abandon his democratic principles in a heartbeat. He did it with the last stimulus plan. He's doing it now. I'll never understand these Republicans parading as Democrats. Because they're not. And that's not just me talking as a progressive. That's not just me talking because I'm far more to the left than the Democratic Party. But these two so-called Democrats are holding up every piece of legislation. Voting rights, Manchin says no. Equality Act, Manchin says no. We get Manchin to maybe start working with us on the infrastructure plan. And then Sinema comes out and says, sorry, can't do it. I mean, I would commend her for reaching across the aisle if the Republicans had any plan on voting for this. I guarantee you that even with this supposed bipartisan plan, it'll get not one Republican vote in the Senate. And it will still fail. I hope that's not the case, but that's what they've been doing. The last stimulus package, they cut it back. They had Joe Manchin help them cut it back, and then not one person voted for it. I'm so sick and tired of seeing Democrats bend over backwards to give the Republicans whatever the hell they want, and then they don't do anything for us. They don't do anything for the people. There's no there's no reason for it. There's absolutely no reason for the Democrats to be bending over backwards to help the minority party. The Republicans lost for a reason. It's because they lost their way. They don't know how to govern. They got behind a Nazi like Donald Trump and then forgot all their principles. I bet they'd probably even excommunicate Ronald Reagan out of the Republican Party now. And so it's just disgusting how they take things that need to be done, politicize them, and then tell us it's our fault. It doesn't make any sense. From COVID to infrastructure to stimulus packages. It doesn't make any sense to me why anybody would vote for the Republican Party. They don't want to help anybody. If they can't help themselves, they don't want to do it. And some of them will even hurt themselves, Dave Rubin, by supporting a party that hates them. Dave Rubin, Caitlyn Jenner, both part of the LGBT community. Both hated by the party they support. Hated by the man they want to have as president. And then over in California, they're trying to recall a governor whose only thing he did was try to make people safe. Trying to recall a governor that is sitting on a budget surplus. A governor who kept the state together during the pandemic lockdowns. And yeah, there are a lot of problems in California from what I'm seeing. Homelessness, for example. But you know where you also have homelessness? In places like Dallas, Texas, Austin, Texas, all over Florida. Homelessness isn't a matter of who's in office. It's a matter of circumstance. There's nothing you can do to stop it. All you can do is try to prevent it and then be there for when people need your help. The thing is, we have a lot of people, especially a lot of wounded vets and veterans with PTSD coming back from Afghanistan, Iraq, and all that stuff, and they're ending up on the streets because of their PTSD. A lot of them. The fact is, we are not helping the people that need the help. A lot of people are on the streets for usually something they have nothing to do with. It's absolutely pathetic. Anyways, this has been In the News. Thank you for watching. I'll see you down the road.